The 100% Wild podcast is brought to you by OnX Hunt, the nation's #1 GPS hunting app. Download today in the Google Play and App Store.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. I'm Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury.
Together, we form the Voltron that is known as...
the weakest link in our company.
But you killed.
I did.
So you're no longer...
full draw, so
yeah,
hey, you're getting closer.
One of my neighbors showed me a picture of Tacticam footage of his hunt. He killed a 150. And he was showing me the footage. And I was like, yeah, cool buck, cool kill. He's like, you know what? It's hard to film a kill.
Yeah, to say the least.
I was like, yeah, you're telling me.
But hey, a lot more people are doing it though with cameras like those Tacticams or
so much easier than it used to be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but,
we'll talk about all that stuff a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about today's guest. These guys, I was first made aware of them when Mossy Oak started airing. It may be Nomad first, and then Mossy Oak started airing their stuff over on the Mossy Oak Go app, and they are killing some absolute giants. And I'm not like they're giant deer, no matter where you live.
Deer, 100%. Yeah. The guys from Seek One are joining us, Drew Carroll and Lee Ellis.
What's up, boys? Guys?
What's going on?
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, man. So you guys have a pretty interesting story, and maybe real quick, give us a brief history of how you did get hooked up with the guys in Nomad and Mossy Oak, and I, that's where I first was made aware of. We started seeing these guys holding these giant deer and succeeding in the suburb, or really, you're in the city limits, right? Is that the case?
Well, it's not technically the city limits of Atlanta. There's a bunch of different cities kind of in the suburbs of Atlanta. So It's within the sprawling suburbs of Atlanta.
I would say from the dead heart of Atlanta, within an hour of any direction, north, south, east, or west, from the center of Atlanta.
All right. So give us a little bit of the backstory here.
Jeez.
So it's the Charlie story when we met.
Do y'all want to know like how we even got into it, like suburban hunting period, or where do y'all
brief synopsis, and then kind of tell us where you first hit it big, or your biggest deer that kind of put you guys on the map.
Okay, I mean we can start from high school, I guess.
Yeah.
So I did not hunt at all, and that's why I'm particularly thankful for suburban hunting, because like I didn't grow up with a family farm, or my parents don't hunt. Like I didn't have a place. I didn't hunt at all until I was 16. Mm-hmm. And Drew's family has a farm in like East Georgia, and we'd go over there every now and then. He hunted there like crazy. Like he grew up hunting. I'd go with him every now and then we went to the same high school together, and it was like we'd be driving home and see does every now and then or whatever. And it was Drew was fishing a pond in Atlanta, and like we were both fishing, and he was like, dude, these trees are like torn up with rubs. I was like, what's a rub? And it was like, when he started pointing all this stuff out to me, I was like, is that a big rub? Like, what's kind of going on with that? But like below this pond was just like obliterated with rubs. And so Drew was like, no, you don't understand. Like this is a big buck. Like this isn't like, I don't see this at my farm.
Yeah.
And so it was like we started getting curious, and I don't even know if we had trail cameras at the time.
No, this was back in like 2006, I think, when we first kind of stumbled upon this area. And we didn't have cameras until probably 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah. And then so we kind of like started researching, like, can you even hunt in Atlanta? Is this possible? Mm-hmm. We contacted a couple guys that have been suburban hunting before us, and kind of realized it's something that you can do, it's capable of doing. And so Drew went and knocked on, we didn't have any of like the Onyx maps or any of this tax map type stuff technology. It was just like, we don't even know who owns what lots until we pretty much knocked on the door and found out like what they own. And so Drew went and knocked on the door that owned the property that we were like backing up to, fishing this little pond. Mm-hmm. And it was were you 15 years old?
I think I was 15, because I remember my mom would have to drive me and drop me off when I opened the door. So I probably had my learner's permit or something, but it took multiple years of knocking on that door to get permission there, because she saw this, kid that walked up. That I'd only been hunting for a couple of years at a time, hadn't really even bow hunted. Mm-hmm. And I probably looked like I didn't know what I was doing, probably sounded like I didn't know what I was doing. And so like the first time I talked to her, she was like, "Oh, like that's interesting. Yeah, we see deer all the time. Let me talk to the neighborhood and make sure it's, it's legal or that the HOA allows it." So she's like, "I'll call you back." Didn't hear from her for a year. Went back the next year and like had to talk to her 2 more times. And finally she was like, "All right, stop coming to my house. Just, you can hunt back there. Just stop bothering me."
No way.
So that was like our first spot.
Yeah.
And it was like a main creek arm that came off of the river. Chattahoochee River runs through Atlanta, and it's like, it's crazy habitat for these deer, but it was like a main creek arm that ran off the river. And then it was just like a big floodplain bottom. It was probably like 8 acres of like thick privet. And so like we started hunting this area, and at first without trail cameras, and we were seeing like crazy bucks running around. Actually, a pretty cool story is the first year we were hunting this place, we didn't have cameras. And like we saw a huge buck sign. Like I remember I saw a huge buck run through brush, and I didn't like see what it was. I just knew it was huge. And the current state record, who was killed by one of our guys on Seek One, his name's Jay, was killed like 500 yards as the crow flies. It was like a 230-inch deer. Basically the same year we started hunting this block of wood. So we were on like pretty much on the state record, 230-inch buck without even having a clue that he was there. So, I mean, I don't know I couldn't have imagined how that would have went down if like the first deer we ever killed in Atlanta was a 230.
Yeah.
But this place was like loaded with deer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had so many mature, like 150 type deer, 5 years and older in this area. And it was just like such a main corridor for so many deer to come through that we had a field day in there for like probably
4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Pretty much our entire high school was a field day.
How big was that tract?
8 acres.
Yeah. Where we had permission, it was 8 acres. And then there's like, in that one little corridor, there's probably 15 acres total. Mm-hmm. But if you look at a map, I mean, like Atlanta's not flat. There's tons of creek bottoms, rolling hills, and there's just pockets of woods like all over the place. So these deer they'll hold up in this little 15-acre block and then follow a creek or follow a river to another block and just constantly bounce around. So the range is really like several miles.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if they really move, like how hard is it to actually pattern them? Because I would imagine with small blocks like that, they're moving quite a bit from little block to block to block.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and y'all were like, part of this podcast is going to be talking about like, misconceptions and things like that for people that have never suburban hunted before. Like one of the biggest things is that people think, oh, they're trapped in a city. You got 5 acres of woods and you got permission there. If a buck is in there, that's just where he lives. He doesn't go anywhere else. You're hunting that 5 acres, that buck lives there, and it's easy. And it's like, that could not be further from the case because these deer travel like miles in a night. I actually had the same buck I was hunting probably 5 years ago. He's actually on the wall up here. He's 177 inches, and I had a trail cam at point A and point B, and they were 7 miles apart, and he showed up on the same camera or both cameras in the same night. So he went 7 miles in one night in November. That just kind of shows you like how big their range is. I mean, sometimes, when we get a spot, that's just like a breadcrumb. We may get pictures of a deer there, but he doesn't live there. And so part of our program that has made we've kind of evolved over the years and something we've really figured out in the last 3 years, because this thing has really taken off in the last 3 to 4 years of what we've been able to kill. And that's like, we used to hunt one spot. If we got a picture of a deer at one spot, we would just hunt it like crazy. Mm-hmm. And maybe it happened there, but most of the time it didn't. And it's because you're only getting like a breadcrumb of that deer's range when he's traveling this massive, massive area. And so in the last, 4 years, we have gotten multiple, sometimes up to like 20, 25 spots. The 204 I just killed this year, I had like 25 spots for this one deer. I have him right here.
Nice.
And so I had like 24 spots for this one buck and had cameras on pretty much all of them, and was really putting the pieces of the puzzle together on like where this deer traveled, mm-hmm. where was his core area, where were his kind of outskirts areas. And it's like, being able to put all of those breadcrumbs together can really give you like the pieces of the puzzle to figuring out a buck like that and give you the best chance of taking a deer like that. So they travel miles. And I mean, I had probably 2 square miles covered for this deer with those 25 spots. And you have to do that because, you know, if you got one spot and the deer's shown up and all of a sudden it's like poof, he's gone and he's, 2 miles away, you're not going to kill that deer at that spot, especially if it's, October, November, and these deer have completely relocated their rut areas. Like, you're out of the game at that point. You've got to follow these deer around and keep tabs on them, keep tracking them and tracking them.
And it's also a constant fight against the clock because there are so many other hunters out there not doing the same thing, because most guys aren't going out and getting 20 spots for a deer.
No, I don't think anybody is.
But there's hunters that maybe they live there, or they have a friend that owns the house and they're hunting that one spot. And there's enough of those people out there to where when that buck starts roaming, there's a really good chance he's walked in front of a handful of other trail cams for hunters.
I had 8 other people send us messages on social media after I killed that deer of their own trail cam pictures of them saying, "Oh, I was hunting this deer," and kind of hearing their stories. Like 8 different people that were also hunting that buck. So it's when you
say 20 to 25 spots, you're talking like an acre. What are you talking, like, size of these spots? It's small stuff, right?
Sometimes half an acre. Sometimes, smaller than that. Sometimes it's 5 acres. Like I think the biggest spot I had for this deer was 20 acres and the smallest was a half acre, and kind of anywhere in between.
Yeah. That's the impressive part, really. I mean, you're really putting the boots on the ground to get access to that many places. That's not easy to do.
And another part of the challenge there is, like, you can't put the boots on the ground until you have permission to be there. Yeah. So it's not, you can't just go walking down this, creek and be like, oh, this spot looks good, I'll go knock on that door. It's looking at Onyx maps, just driving around, kind of peering back behind houses and stuff, and just getting permission to go back there and check it out. So, I mean, for every spot that we actually end up dew hunting, we have 5 or 10 that we go back there, put a camera out like one time, and then just never even go back because it's not worth hunting. So
it's getting to say yes is like, that's the whole deal. So we've gotten better over the years of like perfecting our craft of being able to get access to these places. Mm-hmm. But like, if that person says no, you're out of the game. Like, you can't put a camera there. You can't find out what's in the area. And so like, that is something that is taking us a long time to develop. But it's like being able to get access to these places, you have to win the homeowner first. And if you don't, like, sorry. And some of the bucks we've killed have come from places that have been knocked on and asked for years.
Like
multiple
most people. Of the bucks that you killed are places that I got denied from years prior.
Yeah. And so it's like, if you can't win over that homeowner to say yes, that's the difference sometimes in killing a buck of a lifetime, or just like, sorry, move on down the road, find something else.
Do you ever scaffold into that relationship saying, hey, is it okay if I put a camera up back here, but not hunt? Or, hey, can I recover a deer, but I'm not looking to hunt, and then kind of work your way from there?
For sure. Any foot in the door to kind of start that relationship is huge. I mean, sometimes they're like, dude, yeah, have at it, kill them all. Yeah. But sometimes they're like really on the fence about it. Sometimes it's a hard no, and you go back and revisit enough that, like, sometimes these homeowners will realize how much it means to you. Mm-hmm. And they've seen you a couple times now, so they're comfortable. They've got to know you a little more. And so sometimes, it is a few years long process to actually get access to, a homeowner to say yes.
So when you knock on these doors, you're coming up, are you dressed as a hunter, or are you dressed as a suburban, guy?
There's blood on your sleeves,
bow over the shoulder.
You're ready to go. You don't want to.
I know you guys got a recipe for this, so I'm just curious. Like, what's the best success? Is it a clean cut guy that's obviously respectful and all that, or are you being real and go? It's like, hey, I would love to have access, but I'm, you dressed in camo or something. I wouldn't think it would be that way, but you never know.
We've kind of developed our own kind of things we do. Like I kind of do things that I've learned. Drew's kind of done things he learns. You like to dress up kind of nice, don't you?
I used to do that. I used to wear like one of those like button up fishing shirts or something just to look more presentable. But now to me, it's more just what you say and how you present yourself.
I mean, obviously you can't look like a hobo.
Yeah. You want to look decently nice, at least.
Yeah.
Definitely don't be wearing camo. Probably don't be wearing a hunting shirt. I mean, we wear the sequin shirts all the time, but it's more about how quickly you can evoke trust from the homeowner with what you say within the first 30 seconds.
Because I would think ultimately right away they got a invisible force field up. That's like, all right, I'm not interested in whatever anybody ever comes to my door, I'm not interested.
Especially me.
That's got to be tough. I mean, that's a tough hurdle to jump over right out of the gate.
It amazes me people actually answer their door and say yes. It amazes me.
Yeah. We joke about that all the time. It's like if someone knocked on our door and asked if they could help, we'd be like, heck no.
It'd be a hard no. Hard pass.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't care what they're selling. It's hard.
I wear a tuxedo when I go knock on doors.
You better be sending like a Boy Scout or a kid at my door for me to really care about what.
It's weird. I mean, personal phone calls anymore are kind of an intrusion, and definitely knocking on someone's door feels like.
That's why everybody's got those Ring doorbells. They look at it like, I don't know, I'm not answering it.
but
so I avoid Ring doorbells like the plague because if you ring that doorbell, it's an easy out for them to just be like, sorry, not interested. Click.
Yeah.
If you can actually get that person to open the door and get a face-to-face interaction, your odds of getting that spot go way up. So I literally never, ever push an iRing. I always knock on the door.
Yeah.
And you guys are kind of bringing up an interesting point indirectly, but you talk about like when people say, heck yeah, kill them all. Some of the suburban properties I've gotten access to were people that would just wish they could have a garden or they could have some landscaping in their yard. and the deer densities are just too high. They literally want them gone.
This sounds like my farmer, but he wants them all gone for a different reason.
Sure, no doubt.
I sent him a picture of the deer I killed. He's like, cool. How many more?
20 more. Yeah. Because they have management. They have management goals too. And so like probably having that conversation, are you okay with me taking a couple does or, just understanding what the homeowner wants also so you can achieve some of their goals too.
Because there's certainly some, I would assume, that are like, oh, heck no, there are pets. I would imagine a lot of people that are like, no, we like seeing them back here. We like, putting, corn out or whatever the case may be.
That's kind of the thing is like, the vast majority of the time, a homeowner is going to have an objection.
Yeah.
It's not always the same objection, but like you've got to be on your toes of kind of what road to go down to how to address each objection. Whether it's we see them as pets, we love seeing the deer, then I'll kind of tackle that and go down that direction. Or if they're kind of like,
you're going to shoot my dog or my kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's whatever their objection is, you got to find out what it is and then kind of tackle that and alleviate that concern no matter what it is. But there's always some kind of objection more oftentimes than not. And you've got to be ready to be able to answer that at a moment's notice, or else like you're done. You stutter, they know you're not comfortable. This is something you're not used to. Like it's over.
And that's where experience comes into play. Because the first 10 years that we were doing this, we would knock on 100 doors and get maybe 1 or 2 spots because they would say no and they bring up these concerns and we wouldn't know how to address it properly. But now it's like, we're expecting them to say no at first. And we just have to figure out why they're saying no and why they're against it. And then you just address each of those issues. And once you sit there for 5-10 minutes, showing them that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing, you've been doing this for a while, they feel way more comfortable. And that's why Lee's been able to get access to so many incredible spots and kill these giant bucks.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it's definitely an acquired skill, but it's also kind of like a skill that you lose if you don't sharpen it constantly. Like kind of coming, we typically, we're knocking on doors year round, but there are definitely times, whether it's spring when we're fishing or whatever, where I'm not knocking on doors for a couple months and like getting the wheels turning again is sometimes pretty difficult. So it's like, if you keep the wheels turning, like you get better and better and better. And when you stop and you get stale, like you've got to sharpen it up again. And so I actually was knocking on doors yesterday, and I've kind of been taking the season a little, I don't know if you want to call it easy, but it's been a different season for me.
When you kill a 200 in September.
Take a little.
It's been a different season for me, so I've kind of just enjoyed it. And yesterday I was knocking on tons of doors, and I was like, man, I gotta resharpen my skills. And by the end of the day, I was just really firing on all cylinders and
you're kind of salesman, right?
Exactly.
You're selling yourself and you're what you're wanting to do. You got to be a good salesman.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll actually circle back to what you guys said earlier. Like sometimes with the homeowner, is it like a multiple year process? I've been talking, and you know what property I'm talking about. It's a husband and wife. The husband like is really on the fence about it, wants to make an educated decision about it. The wife is like crazy, literally crazy. And so I've been knocking on these people, like I've been literally knocking on their door since high school. So what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
This is a 10-year process now.
She's crazy in that she's pro hunting, or crazy in that she has a mental disorder?
I mean, like, don't even think about hunting. She's just crazy in general.
Crazy, period.
But she's anti-hunting.
Okay. It's kind of
the husband is like totally cool with it, or not totally cool with it. He wants to make an educated decision. The wife is like really against it. And so I knocked on their door yesterday and knocked on the door. I was like, hey, is your husband home? I always try to talk to the husband. And she was like, just kind of went on a little rant and was like, she ended up about calling the cops on me. And I'm just being like very nice. It wasn't like I was, pressing or anything like that. I basically said, is your husband home? And she was like, no, why? And I was like, well, I wanted to talk to him about the deer again. And I was like, do you know when he'll be home? And she's like, no, you better leave before they call the cops. I was like, so like, can I come back in a week when he's home and revisit with him?
To me, that would sound like a no.
She slammed the door and was like, I'm calling the cops. So obviously I left, but I'm literally going to bring them a honey baked ham for Christmas because I'm not done with them yet. This place is too money.
Persistence pays off, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
You got to win her over.
I bet she's a cat.
Back to the original question on how we started.
Yeah, we went off on a tangent there.
No, yeah, that's okay. So I think we got how you started. Fast forward a little bit to where you started seeing the real big success and the opportunities that have presented themselves since then.
Yeah, well, so we hunted that first spot for 4 or 5 years, and we didn't have to go anywhere else because this place was just loaded. And honestly, we didn't know what else was out there. We didn't realize that if we went and found another similar area down the road, it'd probably have big bucks too. And so Lee was the first one to start branching out. And I don't remember which was your next big buck you killed, but the one that really put us on the map was the first one that we ever filmed, and that was Charlie. You can go ahead and tell that.
Yeah. So we just like crazy stories happen in the suburbs. It's like, it's just such a different atmosphere than what you're typically getting, on a farm on 1,000 acres where there's not interactions with people and things like that. So it's the stories that happen are crazy, and they're after like, deer of a lifetime. So, I had this deer that I had a multiple year, I call it relationship with, because I feel like I'm in a relationship with them.
Towards it?
Yeah, I can in a minute. But so he was like, the year before I took him, he would have annihilated the typical state record. I think he was like a net 190, which at the time, the typical state record was like net 173 with a bow. So he would have like annihilated it. And like, it was just the crazy drama of that year. He got sick and shed his rack in like December. And so my season was pretty much over. And then leading into the next year, it was like the story was just aligning to be pretty epic. And so Drew, like, we really got into the Donnie Vincent series of films, and Drew in particular was like, dude, I can do this. Like, Drew's really, really, really creative. And so he was like, I want to film this and tell the story because it's worth being told. It's a story worth telling. And so he pretty much gave up his whole season to just film me in this story for the deer we called Charlie. And crazy story. I mean, we got like unbelievable footage of him in the summertime. And he's just an absolute freaking giant. And it went down for us, got the kill on camera, everything. And he told the whole story. We launched a trailer that we put on YouTube, and I think it was Mossy Oak that first. Yeah, it was Mossy Oak that first reached out to us.
It was our buddy Matt that knows Mossy Oak and connected us.
Yeah, first reached out to us, and they basically, Mossy Oak approached us about doing it was bi-weekly uploads of our season in Atlanta, and we basically Drew dove into it head first. I mean, he was pulling all-nighters, trying to film these episodes and put them together for Mossy Oak to put on their channel. And it just kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of happened. We didn't even really have a plan. Like when we were filming the story for Charlie, like we definitely didn't have a plan. Like, this is what we want to do. We want to be in this industry. And, this is our starting point and all this stuff. It just kind of like things just kept unfolding and just kept happening and happening and happening. And it's just like crazy to kind of look back on it and be at the point that we are. And, the stories that we've captured on camera have been, you can't make them up. And so that's kind of how we got our start. And then when we were doing those videos with Mossy Oak is when like we got introduced to Nomad and things like that. And so that's kind of the start. I can actually, you want me to pull the mount down or you want me to just angle the camera? I'm going to angle the camera to show Charlie, but that's Charlie.
Oh boy.
What'd he end up grossing? He's a stud.
He grossed 183 as a really like an 8-pointer. But he was, like I said, he was like way bigger the year before as a 10-pointer. So okay, you guys, obviously are having success, and you have a YouTube channel that, you're here at 100,000 subscribers. I mean, this is all within a few years, right? So have you seen a influx in hunters in your areas? I always often wondered this about the guys at the hunting public, because they're showing where they're hunting in the public land. And so I wondered if it has had a big effect on the way that you guys hunt to continue to get the access, because I'm sure it's opened up a spotlight on
monkey see, monkey do.
On your areas, and then all of a sudden there's a lot more hunters that are thinking they can do it as well. So has it changed your experiences for the better or the worse?
Yeah, for sure. And part of the reason we didn't have to move around at that first spot was because I don't think the secret was really out of the bag yet, and there was still a bunch of mature deer running around. We're blamed for kind of letting the secret out of the bag by a lot of people, but honestly, like a lot of the local magazines and forums and stuff, they were already writing and showing pictures of these giant deer that were being killed in Atlanta. We definitely exacerbated the problem.
We didn't help it for sure.
Yeah, and it's your question. Yes, the hunting pressure has increased exponentially in the last few years, or the last 10 years, really. But
there's thousands of hunters.
Yeah. Now, like if you drove around right now, and if you could just like walk through the woods freely, you would probably find a hunter in almost every single block of woods that looks huntable right now. And honestly, like a lot of those this time of year during the rut they probably aren't allowed to be there. They'll drive in from outside of Atlanta and just, post up and just park on the side of the road, or park it like in a shopping center and think they can just go hunt wherever they want. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely made it way more difficult to find mature deer now, because these bucks are getting shot at 3 years old when they're 140 inches, which is a big deer for Georgia, anywhere in Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame a guy that's never killed, a buck in his life, and a, 130, 140 inch deer walks out and he's in front of him. He's got a bow in his hand. The problem is that's a 3-year-old deer. I mean, a lot of our 130s, 140s are 3 years old, and it's because the genetics are so stellar here. And those are the bucks that turn into, 170, 180 pluses when they're 5, 6, 7 years old down the road. So, it's definitely making it tougher. And, we've honestly, like, people have kind of hated on us a little bit for kind of exposing this secret that have been, hunting this place for a while. But to us, like, it's worth it. And I'll kind of circle back to what I said, like really early in the podcast, was like, I didn't grow up with a hunting farm, and my parents don't hunt. And so like discovering that you could hunt in Atlanta really helped me like find my passion for bow hunting. And if it weren't for suburban hunting in Atlanta, like I would not have found that passion. And it means so much to me. I mean, it's like, I don't know who I would be without it. That I can, go in the woods and get still, even in the midst of like total chaos. And it got me, a kid from the city who didn't come from a family of hunting, into hunting and fell in love with hunting. And it's like, I don't want to rob that from some other kid that may have that same opportunity. I can't tell you how many guys we've had reach out to us, high school kids or college kids, and say, I just got into bow hunting, just saw y'all's videos. I got my first bow, or I'm getting my first bow for Christmas. My uncle or family friend owns some acreage in their backyard that backs up to a creek, and I'm all into bow hunting now. And I just wanted to thank you guys for that. So it's like, there is a side where we're giving away the secret and there's more people doing it, but we're also exposing a side of hunting to a crowd that may never have even been able to get into the world of hunting. And so it's like we're appealing to a whole different crowd as opposed to, people that just kind of grew up around it and things like that. So it's from that perspective, it's a win. And if that next high school kid goes out and falls in love with it and it means as much to him as it means to me, like that's a huge win. And that's more worth it than having more competition over a buck.
It obviously is resonating. I mean, you look at you guys' uploads on YouTube and the views are a couple 100,000 a piece and more. And so it's so unique. I think it's such a, it's accessible. It's like something people can do. Yeah. I think they can dream to do that. To your point, not everybody can to go, travel to the Midwest or have a farm that they grew up with or whatever the case may be. But can you knock on a door, get permission, the old fashioned way? I think, if you want it enough, I think you guys show that you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's accessible to everybody. I mean, what you guys do at Drury Outdoors, like managing these big farms for giant deer, that is awesome. And something that we would love to do one day when we can afford it. But the reality is most people can't afford to do that, or they have a job where they're too busy to be able to do that. And they want to be able to go hunt right down the road after work, sit in the stand from 5:30 till dark or before work. And the way that we hunt is the most logical way for them to do that. So I feel like we're showing people that you can have the same success as the people that have these big farms.
You put in the work.
By putting in the work, being persistent, and it doesn't cost anything. Like we have literally never paid a dime to lease property, to get permission, to own property. It's all been just knocking on doors and being persistent. So it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah, that's what I think is so relatable with what we're doing, is that this is not also just happening in Atlanta. I mean, this is a countrywide thing. We're getting messages from suburban guys in Birmingham, Canada, Australia. Yeah, we gave a bow away in our last on our social media, and it was like the guy won from Canada. We get messages from like people in Australia that are suburban hunting. It's like this is I would say countrywide, but it's kind of a worldwide type phenomenon. But and we were talking before we came live with you guys, like about other cities that have giant deer. And so it's just like, it appeals to the whole world of hunting that, this is something that's not out of reach. You can do this. And it doesn't matter if you're in Atlanta or if you're in Seattle or, St. Louis or like wherever you are, you can find these places to get in and hunt and access some pretty cool deer.
That's right.
So,
yeah, that's right. Well, guys, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you for what you're doing for the bow hunting community in general.
Before we leave, did you upload your deer to DeerCast when you killed it this year? I saw it somehow in DeerCast.
I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah. That thing. I mean, that I told Tim that I was like, I'm pretty sure that he uploaded his deer to DeerCast this year. I think because I vividly remember it. I go, this deer is freaking awesome.
Yeah, the picture of that deer went everywhere. I mean, it's crazy because it's hard for them to believe that these deer are coming from Atlanta of all cities. Yeah. And so like, it just seems like whenever we kill a giant, like the picture just goes completely viral and it's all over the place. But yeah, we did upload that to DeerCast.
Hey, keep them coming, man. That's awesome. We love it. So before you go, do you got more plans, I guess, last season left in front of you? More plans to go out there and hit it hard?
Well, I tagged out last week for the first time ever in Georgia.
Hey.
I killed 2 bucks from the same stand in 36 hours.
Oh.
So I'm in Georgia. I'm actually headed up to Nashville, I think this weekend, to try to get it done up there. I don't know if you guys saw that episode, but 2 years ago? We went up there and basically spent like a whole week knocking on doors, doing the whole Atlanta thing in a new city, trying to show people exactly how we do it from the start. And so I'm still trying to kill one up there, but
there's some giants in there.
Yeah,
we got some good deer up there too.
The one I'm on, if I kill him, he'll be the biggest buck I've ever killed. But wow. I don't know. It's gonna be a lot of work.
So that's kind of our plan. Is like we're wanting to branch out from Atlanta and go to different cities and things like that. Nashville, you guys have now got me intrigued in St. Louis, so I'll probably be booking a flight tomorrow up there. We've talked about Oklahoma City, different places like that, and so we're wanting to branch out and do this in other places. And it will all be, uploaded onto our YouTube and social media and stuff like that. So that's kind of a big plan, is to keep telling stories in unique places.
So where can people find you guys at?
Just Seek One Productions on YouTube. It's SEEKONE Productions. And then also Seek, then the number 1 Productions on Instagram. So Instagram, you get more, up-to-date information. Like if we kill something, we'll post it right away. Sure. YouTube, we usually try to get the videos out within 2 to 3 weeks of real time. So I'm backed up on videos right now, but we have probably 5 or 6 kill episodes that should be coming up in the next month or so.
Good deal.
So, wow. Good check them out.
Look forward to seeing them, guys. Yeah. We appreciate you jumping on with us, and hopefully we could stay in touch. We'd love to have you guys back on.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
See ya.
Yeah.
See y'all.
We need to work with Muddy on a swing set blind.
Swing set blind?
Yeah. Looks like a swing set. You sit on the backyard and
it's kind of like just sitting in your truck. Just basically waiting.
Yeah, pretty much. Only it would be legal.
Yes. Well, I didn't say I was doing it.
Okay. Hypothetically. Yeah. So the cool thing about what those guys are doing, and they recognize this, it's making life a little harder for them, but them bringing more kind of awareness to this resource that's been pretty much untapped to this point, is opening the door for a lot of folks that just wouldn't have been hunting.
And we need that. He brought up a great point. He wasn't a hunter, and that's, he got into it, and they're obviously getting more kids into it, more adults, whatever. We need everybody we can to be joining forces here with us. So it's a good thing. And I find it very intriguing. It sounds like they really got a cool gig going on over there.
And he's right. You get some crazy stories hunting in suburbia. I didn't tell you about my brush with Bridezilla last weekend. My buddy and I were parked on this old access road, and the property I was hunting is the old camp I used to run, and a family had rented it out for a wedding. And this access road is kind of a big loop. And these people drove past us on the main road. They saw us unpacking. We're going to put some stands up. So we had everything like explode. It looked like a Bass Pro Shop exploded in the back of my truck. Bunch of stuff on the ground. And they went around us on the main road and then got changed and stuff. And the bride was in the vehicle. They come up the service road and they just sit there behind us, probably 50 yards back. And I wave at them like, hey, see you guys. I figured they just wanted to ask us like, how's the hunting, or, what's going on? And eventually she steps out in her white gown and she says, excuse me, but can you boys please move? And I was like, we kind of got a lot of stuff here. The drive goes all the way back to the main. She could have just turned around and went back out, but she was dead set on us moving. And I was like, we got kind of a lot of stuff open up. We'll be gone in probably 15 minutes.
You're such a jerk, Tim.
I was kind of feeling bad, but the more she talked, she's like, well, we kind of have a place to be right now. And I was like, okay, so you're going to do that. I was like, well, we can pull off. Just give us a couple minutes. She's like, it needs to be right now. I was like, okay, well, and I was thinking we should probably get
somebody
this.
I know.
We should probably get this on film, but I opted not, because that kind of amps up the levels of nerd. And I always feel like I'm an ambassador for all hunters out there.
You are.
I have,
we all are.
So I acquiesced and I moved the truck over, and as I said, okay, we'll move our stuff. And I start throwing stuff in the back of the truck, moving it off the road. She turns around. She goes, thank you for allowing me to get married.
Okay.
I was so pissed just because she had to throw that little last barb. And I was like, you're arguing with me because I said yes. Like, just take yes for an answer. Be cool about it. And I was like, only in suburbia.
Yeah, hey, look, you guys, these guys, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with it because I get pretty annoyed just with dealing with neighbors and, things that you can't control. And it's not like I'm hunting a giant farm there on the lease.
No, but the population density is totally different.
I couldn't imagine. It's, when we're trying to do this and you're trying to film and produce, basically this is our job, right?
Yeah.
So it adds a different level to it, but I major props to you guys, these folks and you. I couldn't do it. I couldn't handle it.
That same night, my buddy Jace, he was running camera. A small buck walked in front of us. He had limited time. He still had a tag. I was like, you want to shoot him? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll shoot him. And he shot the buck. It dies and it rolls down the hill to the creek that's right next to the road. And about a half hour later, a kid on a mountain bike, he's probably in his 20s, comes riding down the road, and I see him slow down because this deer has a nocturnal sticking out of it,
great.
and it's a strobing nocturnal.
Perfect.
He slows down, and I'm like, oh no, because we're still hunting. It's like the last light. It's perfect. It's the sweet spot. He does a circle on his bike on the road, and I can see him looking down in the creek.
What the hell is that?
He stops, and he just it's dark. It's getting dark. It's quiet. The woods are peaceful. He just goes, oh,
that's it, huh?
And I whistle, just like, hey, someone's up here. And he shouts, I found your deer.
Okay, thanks.
It's like
we see it strobing over here.
It wasn't lost. We're still hunting. Please move along.
Well, you're not anymore.
Yeah, we had to be done at that point.
I know this isn't a suburban hunting story, but you're gonna kick out of this. So I'm driving. We had a birthday party to go to on Saturday night. I killed splits Friday.
Yep.
We recover them Saturday. We do all the stuff. I had to hightail it about 2 hours south to get to this 40th birthday party. So the next day I haven't seen the kids in a while. And so I got the kids. I'm driving back because we were staying at Randa's mom's house.
Sure.
We're driving back and I'm driving up the road. I see something in the median on Interstate 55. I'm like, what in the world? There's two kids. I'm telling you, they couldn't have been teenagers. I'm talking like 10, 11 years old, sawing a head off of a dead deer.
Welcome to Missouri.
Like a spike. And they just sawed it off. They're running with the head and a saw. These two kids, they're running back to a Cadillac. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought
Hillbilly's got money too.
Look, they had to be, I don't know. I thought this is some suburban kid whose parents are allowing them to saw the head off of this deer.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I go, what? And the kid's like, what, Dad? What? I couldn't even tell him. I was like, nothing,
I can't get it out.
Of course, Cameron says, you getting pulled over again? Like, no, I'm not.
This is for a legitimate reason. It's weird. Like I was running to my folks' house one day, and they live in kind of a suburban rural area, and they live about 5 miles away from me. The roads were shut down because of ice and stuff, and so I was like, "Oh, run up to my mom." There was someone left a deer head in the ditch.
But they took the body?
The body was gone.
That's a new one. I've never seen that.
Jefferson County, Missouri.
That's good meat there, son.
What are people doing?
I don't know. Let's get to
let's talk about some legitimate deer hunting news.
Let's wrap this one up and we'll start a whole nother one for
2 podcasts.
Yeah, we don't do it enough.
Super tease.
Yeah, that's right. So
stay tuned next week. Everyone that tuned in, thank you for doing so. Thank you to the guys from Seek One. If you want to ask a question that we may or may not use on the show, go to DreAoutdoors.com/podcast and click the send voicemail button and leave us your name, your location, and a brief question, and we'll do our best to answer that.
Definitely go check those guys' YouTube channel out. It's pretty impressive. It's awesome. You just don't see that kind of stuff every day.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
The size of the deer is ridiculous.
Yeah. So pretty compelling stuff. So be sure to check out Seek One Productions on YouTube.
Yep.
And until next time, safe hunting. We appreciate everything. Peace out. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by OnX Hunt, the nation's #1 GPS hunting app.